Welcome to Film Detour, a podcast where two longtime film buddies take you down and around the back alleys and side streets of cinema.
With the occasional left-hand turn.
I'm John Knapp.
And I'm Bob Mueller. So let's go. John, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's hit it. Okay, so here we are back again, and today's feature is, John?
French Connection 2.
French Connection 2. Yes, you heard that right. French Connection 2.
What? They made a sequel to French Connection?
Yeah, a pretty audacious thing to even try. John Frankenheimer directed it. Great director.
And
Manchurian Candidate, Black Sunday, Birdman of Alcatraz.
1975, right? You know, I did read this. I did go through a Gene Hackman biography.
Uh-huh.
He was not willing to do this movie. He was contractually obliged to do a sequel.
Really? Because I was baffled. I couldn't imagine why Gene Hackman would actually do it.
He did get okay for the director. So he got approval for the director. They came up with a list of directors. He picked John Frankenheimer.
He did.
I don't know if he was the only one, but
okay.
he was able to approve the director, which was a great choice, I have to say, John Frankenheimer.
It was great. I mean, like I said, Manchurian Candidate, Black Sunday, Birdman of Alcatraz, The Train, and The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah. And, you know, if you're Gene Hackman, you're going, this guy knows how to do action. So,
he knows how to direct, period. I mean, it's just great stuff.
And the other interesting I found, because obviously there's a sequel to The French Connection, Gene Hackman, he did not think he could play Popeye Doyle in the original film. He did not think of himself, this is funny, as a tough guy.
Really?
He grew up in California. He was like a method actor. He said, I was not a violent guy. He really worried over this role and had to do it.
Well, he came through pretty well because he seems like a pretty damn violent guy to me.
Yeah,
he's
so
very intimidating.
Obviously, there's a sequel to French Connection. He won an Oscar as actor,
yes,
best actor.
For Popeye Doyle, sure.
So starring Gene Hackman and
Roy Scheider
as Sonny. Called Cloudy. That was his real nickname in life.
I always love to watch Roy Scheider. And I can watch Gene Hackman in anything.
Yeah.
Except maybe, I don't know, The Poseidon Adventure as the priest. I think I'll draw the line there.
Yeah.
But you know, both of them are great actors, really quintessential 70s actors, and they're just a pleasure to watch.
And I have to say, William Friedkin is director of that movie. What a great movie, The French Connection.
Yes, absolutely.
Which went on to win all these awards. And so this was a big deal to try and do a sequel to French Connection. And I don't think sequels were very popular back then. I don't think there were many in the 70s. I can't think of a sequel.
Gone with the Wind 2. I just don't, how do you remake the French Connection or even attempt to try?
Yeah, I mean, now every movie's a sequel. Back then, they didn't really do it much.
The thing that's interesting to me is, John Frankenheimer, terrific director, well-known director, but you got to be out of your mind to do this. But his previous movie, I just read recently that his previous movie did lousy.
Yeah.
And he was living in France at the time. He was just, didn't have anything specific to do. So when this came along, he said, great. He said, but I don't want to make a movie that's going to try and infringe on, the original in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
He said, because I think that movie is one of the most amazing movies I've ever seen, which is high praise from someone like John Frankenheimer.
So I don't know if it originated with him, but it's a great idea to have Popeye Doyle come to France.
That's a great idea.
At the end of French Connection, the villain, Charnier, gets away.
Yeah.
So now we have Popeye Doyle coming to Marseille to find Charnier. The screenwriters for this...
Alexander Jacobs.
He
did Point Blank.
Hell in the Pacific.
Both Borman films.
And a film we might talk about in the future.
Yes, indeed, The 7-Ups.
Yeah, with Roy Scheider.
Yeah, it's kind of the bastard son of the French Connection.
Yeah, and then Robert and Laurie Dillon. Now, I don't know about Laurie Dillon. I think she and Robert did the story for this.
Yes.
But Robert Dillon did a couple of screenplays. Prime Cut, which is a great...
I love Prime
60s
Cut. He did Prime Cut?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And the music, composed by Don Ellis.
Same one who did the original.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It feels the same. It's like that's the one continuation besides Gene Hackman.
And he has that quality in the soundtrack where he has this kind of pitch that gets under your skin.
Yeah.
And it makes you really tense in those moments when things are going on that are very tension-filled.
So, again, how do you follow this great film? And now this film just begins with Popeye Doyle getting off the bus, I guess, with his suitcase in Marseille.
No, he pulls him in a cab.
Oh, I'm sorry. He gets out of a cab.
He pulls him in a
French
cab, and it's kind of a funny opening with him because he pulls him in the cab, and right away he's starting to argue with the cab driver because he thinks he's getting cheated.
Yeah.
He takes his number, and I'm going to find you out. Yeah, like you're going to find this guy in Marseille
It's like the
somewhere
typical-
for like a $3 overcharge.
Typical New York
Typical
cop.
Popeye Doyle New Yorker.
He's going to go to Frog
Yeah,
Country
that's right.
and have his way.
He is-
He doesn't even bother to learn the language.
He is the total ugly American.
Exactly.
He's the quintessential ugly American.
Perfect.
Who speaks English? Do you speak English type of thing? And he couldn't be more crass or out of place. And
What's
when-
great about the story, though, is they drop him right into the middle of the quintessential French atmosphere. It's
Yeah.
like you think he's walking into a fish market. Like, what the
Right.
hell's going on?
Right,
There's
right,
all
right,
these guys
right.
selling fish, it
Right.
looks like.
But the whole thing is it's partly not partly. It is. It has to do with this whole thing about April Fool's Day. And what they do in Paris or France in general, they have this thing, it's April Fool's Day, haha, they pin a fish to you. And we see that Popeye Doyle has a fish stuck to his door, which when he comes up originally, when he tries to open the door, he can't get out his own door. This kind of sets up how awkward the whole thing's going to be, how much of a pain in the ass it's going to be, and how out of place he's going to be.
But they are looking for dope in the cops. The French cops
Because
are
they
looking for drugs in the fish.
they get a
smuggled
tip that it's
fish.
supposed to be in the fish.
Right, and there's a whole great scene where Popeye's trying to talk to these guys. They don't understand them, and there's one cop, the head cop. His name is Henri Barthélemy. Bartlemy is how I'll say it. He's the only one that really speaks English. He's the guy Popeye's meeting.
Yes, his name is Henri, but Popeye Doyle refers to him as Henry.
Henry. Which we will too.
Yes.
In honor of Popeye Doyle.
Sure.
Henry Bartlemy.
Sure.
Not Henri Barthélemy. So that's his liaison with this French police force. And he's supposed to be an observer. That's the first thing he kind of gets from this guy. He's like, you're here to observe. You're not to do anything.
But he
just
loves the
watch.
fact that these guys have just been totally goofed on with this April Fool's joke.
That's what we learn at the end of the fish
Right.
market scene.
Right.
And as we'll see in the movie, the way I took this movie, the way I watched it, is everything is kind of built around these, I'll call set pieces. And the first one is this French fish market, it seems like. To me, I kind of saw this film as these great scenes built around all these different locations.
I love the his introduction. Gets out of the cab, he puts on his hat. He's all ready for business. He's Popeye Doyle now.
The Popeye
and
Doyle
And I
hat.
love the half-ass, skinny, really strangulated knot
Is
he
that
has
a
in his
pork
tie.
pie hat? Is
That's
that
a
what they
pork
call
pie.
pork pie? Yeah.
So the captain, Henri, he reminds me of it looks like a Ralph Meeker.
Yeah. The actor's name is Bernard Fresson.
Yeah, he's great.
And they do reference in the fish market, I'll call it. He makes reference to Popeye. You're here to just watch. I know
Right.
you're here to look for Shawnee, but
Right.
he actually references a real incident that gets under Popeye's skin. Is all that heroin that Popeye and Sonny confiscated was stolen from police property. That happened in real life. After this big bust, that dope went missing. No one ever knew what happened to it.
Right, so he's giving him shit about that, and he's also giving him shit about his whole way of doing things.
Yeah.
And it really sets up when they're in the men's room back at the police station.
You mean the shit house?
Yeah, the shit house. I was going to get to that.
Sorry.
Gene Hackman or Popeye Doyle's version, the shit house.
Such a classic word.
Yeah. So you got Henri or Henry with his file, reading it out loud to the guys in the bathroom, and Doyle is completely indignant. He's really angry. Oh, what are you doing with my file in the shit house? Which this whole scene sets up this mutual contempt between the two of them.
Is this like a classic French pissoir? I don't know. They're all like just standing there pissing in this trough or whatever. And
Yeah.
Popeye's like, what the hell are we doing in the... And it almost looks... You look through the window, it almost looks out onto the police room there.
Right.
It's like... And of course he takes him out of there.
Yeah.
And leads him to his desk. And where is it?
Next to the shit house.
Right next to
There
it.
you
On
go.
this balcony.
Right,
Next
exactly.
to the shit house. And of course that is not sit well with Popeye.
In the first outing that they go on this thing for they get a tip
Like
and
a
there's
like a
drug
raid,
bust.
a drug raid, a
Right,
bust,
exactly.
right?
and they go barreling through there, and he tells Doyle, "You're watching.
Right.
You don't have a gun. You're not allowed to carry a gun. You're just watching."
And they're in this kind of weird little neighborhood, like
Yeah,
these shanties,
thatched roofs and whatnot.
and a lot of people of color. I think
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah.
like it's like a typical slum.
Yeah, it is a slum. Exactly.
They're looking for what?
They're looking for dope, but they make a raid, and it's not like it's going to be completely knocking on doors or busting down doors. He has a megaphone. They're just going to spread out, and they're going to take everybody they could possibly get. Everybody just come outside, and that's it.
And he tells Popeye to stand back and watch.
Stand back and watch. That's it.
So they go in, and suddenly someone just starts shooting.
Right. Start shooting, and then buildings start to explode. I guess.
So it was a lab or something?
Lab or something exploded from cooking the heroin.
So this just all turns to shit, to hell, I'll say,
Right.
and things go crazy.
And Doyle sees this guy running away. So what's he going to do?
This African guy, because he's in a dashiki or whatever. He's on the rooftop.
Right.
Suddenly you see this guy over the rooftop, duck and
so Doyle
jump down.
can't sit still. He's not the sitting still type, and he takes off.
Without a gun.
Gets the guy, tackles the guy. The guy actually...
Well, it's a chase. He does chase him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of this in this movie.
Running through the different parts
He's
of the
chasing
city.
through these alleys and up and down
Pretty
stairs,
fearless, because
whatever.
this is not exactly the nicest neighborhood in town.
Yeah.
And it's not his hometown, where he knows that he can get away with this shit.
Yeah. So he finally gets him on this one street, and somehow he runs
Flying
this guy
tackle.
down, flying tackle,
And knocks him to the ground.
knocks him to the
But
ground.
the guy's a really big guy.
He's
and
he's like a
throwing him
bulldog.
around.
He's not tall. He's like
He's
built.
stocky, but he's like it's like a fire plug.
Yeah,
He just-
exactly.
you can't really get around this guy. So they're punching each other, and finally he can't get out of this thing, and he's yelling at the cops, "Get this guy off!"
He jumps on his back, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's like riding him and trying to get him down.
And the guy's punching him on the side and everything.
Yeah.
So he calls to the cops, to Henri.
They
and he
finally
goes,
catch up.
he goes, "Get this guy off me."
Henri pulls him aside.
Right.
He's like, leave him alone.
They calm the guy down. The other cop has to actually smack him in the face a couple times to calm him down.
Yeah, because what's
he's so
weird
enraged.
is you see how enraged
He's
this African guy is. Like,
what are
this
you
guy-
doing? What's
yeah.
this guy doing to me? What are you, crazy? And because they let him go, he's an informant.
We only learned that when Henri pulls Popeye away.
Right.
He let him go. That he's one of us. And you
So
see
he
the
walks
guy walking
away,
down the
and
street.
as soon as he's walking, I see this group of guys kind of going around. They go, "Oh my God, this guy's, forget it. He's an informant. They know he's an informant. This guy's
Right.
dead."
Next thing you know, he's like, they're
So
stabbing
Popeye
him.
looks
There's
back.
blood everywhere.
So Popeye looks back. You don't even see the stab. No. Popeye looks back, and the guys are spreading out like just like ants out of an ant colony.
Yeah.
And he's down. His throat has been cut. It's bleeding. And Popeye goes, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
So it's for Doyle. Fuck up number one.
Yeah, and it's a rude awakening that you may think you know what's going on, but you don't know anything.
Right.
This isn't your world.
That's not your
it's
world.
It's a perfect setup.
I was going to
for
say
this
town,
character.
but you're right. Now, this is not your world at all.
It's a great scene because it does really, even to the audience, you're watching. Because when I remember first seeing this, and I was kind of young, it was in the late 70s, I think. This was 75. And for me, it's like the first time I really saw what real French, kind of hard-boiled neighborhoods are like. And it was kind of an eye-opener. I'm like, oh, shit, it's even worse there, maybe.
And you grew up in the Bronx.
Well, I'm telling you.
In the projects.
I mean, as a dumb American, you're thinking, oh, France, it's going to be this picturesque thing. But here we are in the middle of the drug trade. Marseille is a pretty tough town, I guess, back then. I don't know about now. But so it's a very interesting to bring the audience also into this kind of environment.
And everybody spreads out after everybody just kind of, the gang of guys who cut his throat, everybody moves, and people on the street move. Even the cat goes down the sewer. I thought that was great.
And then there's a great scene.
The interrogation scene. So he
the interrogation.
See, he brings they catch one guy.
They catch one guy at the
and
raid.
They bring him back. It's a very funny scene in a very strange cutaway. Doyle, being Doyle, playing his bad cop routine, he's trying to talk to this guy, which he knows can't understand a thing he's saying. So he starts just tapping on the window with a stick or a ruler. I'm not quite sure what it was, and he goes, "I'm going to take you down there in that alley there. See, right down there."
And I have to say, the guy's looking at him with this comic expression.
He's just laughing the whole time.
Like he doesn't understand a word Popeye's saying.
Because Popeye's laughing the whole time. He's doing it like it's a big funny joke.
Yeah.
The guy can't understand it, but this is
he's kind of a comical looking guy. He's like...
Yeah. Popeye wants to get this out somehow and say what he wants to do. I'm going to take you down the alley there, and I'm going to start on your throat, right here. And he taps the throat.
Guy smiles.
Guy smiles and is laughing. He goes, "Bust everything in it."
Smiles again.
Smiles again. He's laughing, So Doyle starts to laugh too.
Is that where he brings up the line?
Yeah. And then he goes. So he starts laughing like hell, and the guy starts laughing like hell. You like that, huh? Then your belly. Start working on your belly. I'm gonna hit you so fucking hard in the belly, it's gonna break your backbone. And the guy's still laughing the whole time. He has no idea what's going on.
And then I think it's soon after that. So he walks into the cafe and he has this dialogue, same thing, with the bartender, who's like the typical French kind of cafe bartender.
Henri.
And
I really felt sorry for Doyle.
Yeah.
I mean, in that scene,
he's a fish out of water.
He was so lonely, John.
Yeah.
It was palpable.
Yeah.
You felt really, because he could be a real son of a bitch, but I felt really sorry for him.
So suddenly he's walking around the city and he ends up in this cafe. Yeah,
So
and
lonely.
he can't talk to people.
And he sees the two girls sitting there, and
Turns
he thinks,
around,
you know,
these
you
two
want to buy a
beautiful
drink.
girls, yeah.
Well, it's not the best come on when you're in your 40s, they're young girls, and you're chewing on a hard-boiled egg. I don't know, somehow, it doesn't really make for the best pickup there.
And he befriends the bartender. He's like, you have one. And he keeps giving him drinks, right?
Somebody's going to have a drink with me.
Yes. And the guy pulls out some green cream de menthe. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, some sort of green liqueur.
And of course, he ends up getting drunk too.
But I like what Popeye says when he's ready to pour that. He goes, "You gonna drink that green shit?"
And so he tries to pick up the two girls. He's not successful. And,
yeah, because they have two biker boys. They're going to be picking them up soon. So he's not going to really make too much time with these girls.
And then there is a nice little montage of him just walking through the streets.
It's how we find out about really why Doyle is in Marseille.
Right.
And it's really interesting because there's a montage of him walking around in his Popeye Doyle clothes, with the hat and whatnot, and he's looking for Charnier.
So just to remind our listeners, Charnier is the drug kingpin, basically.
Yes, at the end of the movie of the French Connection, the original one, he's the guy who gets away. He is the kingpin. He's the guy bringing the drugs in from Marseille.
So the next day, Doyle ends up at the beach, and
he's watching a volleyball game.
He's watching a volleyball game with all these beautiful young people.
Yeah, beautiful young girls in bikinis, etc. Young, virile-looking guys.
So this is interesting, like what you just said earlier about flushing out the criminals.
Yeah.
Suddenly you cut across the bay there, and Charnier is in a restaurant with an American general who's smuggling in dope for him. Right. And Charnier sees Doyle. I didn't get the sense that Doyle was following Charnier there.
He's not. So he's just standing there watching the game. But it's a really neat shot that Frankenheimer does. He pans from Doyle down to the beach area where the people are playing volleyball, and then the camera moves in slowly to this restaurant in the background, really nice, expensive-looking restaurant, and it moves closer and closer until it zooms right in on Charnier's face in the window.
Yeah. Like that Charnier sees him picks him out of this whole crowd on the beach, and Doyle just happens to be there. So soon after that, now that we know that Charnier knows Doyle is in Marseille,
right?
He's suddenly Doyle's kidnapped.
He gets sapped, whacked on the head, and he is kidnapped and taken to the Hotel Tangier, it was originally called.
Well, which is interesting, right? Because I was
going to say that.
Colonnade,
was it called?
It was on the sign above. It's the Hotel Colonnade, but when they're dragging him in,
he spots that.
He's looking down and he sees in the tile Hotel Tangier.
Yeah,
so that's what I keep referring it to.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's like this old beat-up hotel.
Right.
On its last legs.
Right,
And
in a bad part of town.
Yeah, and seedy hotel, we'll call it.
Exactly.
So they bring him there, and, it's a long scene, and it's a really great scene that takes up pretty much the middle of the movie, where they slowly, hook Doyle on heroin. They give him injections, and he's clearly there a long time. It's a whole montage.
I love when Charnier walks in for the first time when Doyle's kidnapped. He's lying there in bed. He's all trussed up.
Tied
up to the bed. And Charnier walks in, and he just has a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And it's really neat. And Doyle would like to just rip the bonds from the bed and kill this guy right then and there. But he sits there and just says, we're going to get information out of you. Yeah. And my friends have a way of doing it. Not the way I would do it, but we're going to get the information out of him. So they hook him on heroin, so he's dependent on them. And in this, pliable state, he will eventually give them the information.
And the way the scene's done, it's very well done. It's gradual. First you see, in the first couple of scenes where they're injecting him, he's kind of resistant, but very slowly
he sits on the chair and he sits there waiting for them.
Waiting by the end of this,
He's angry, but he's got his arm up. He's smacking his arm. He's getting it all pumped up so his veins are nice and plump. So they're ready for the needle.
And talk about acting. I just have to say, it's a very convincing Gene Hackman as a drug addicted Doyle.
He's phenomenal.
You just feel
he's phenomenal. He got an Academy.
He's got the whole junkie look down. down. The
He's
acting,
phenomenal.
yeah.
His performance in this is so damn good.
Yeah.
It's as good, if not better, than The French Connection, the first one. He's so good in it. But that just shows you what a terrific actor the guy is. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he is. And,
Really great.
And there's a great scene with the old English lady.
Yeah, the old lady
She comes
in.
into the room, and she's like, he's totally out of it. She's kind of comforting him, and you're like, who's this lady?
She sort of befriends him.
she's a little grandmotherly English
She's
lady.
comforting, and she's stroking his arm.
I've been here the whole time. And you don't see anything about her, just her face. And she's stroking his arm, and suddenly she reaches for his watch, and on her arm.
She's got track marks,
Track
bruised
marks all
veins.
over her arm. But it's so great how they just reveal that
Yeah.
as she's reaching for his watch.
And she has these gnarled hands, these really
Yeah.
arthritic hands, that she's being comforting to him. But at the same time, she's being duplicitous by taking his watch,
Yeah.
but she still is being caring to him. Because she said she has her own son too, you know, and she has a real sad story herself. She's
Of
basically
course. I mean,
she's basically left behind, you know, to live in Marseille, and she becomes a junkie herself. She's gonna be
it's
what,
crazy.
80 years old or something?
It's so seedy. Like, you just think of this little
It
old
gives you the
lady
creeps.
hooked on dope
Right.
in this seedy hotel run
No-
by drug dealers.
No
or
one's
something.
gonna listen to you.
Yeah, it's
Don't
crazy.
bother screaming.
But she's surviving. She takes his watch.
Right. But she does take him to the bathroom later just to help
Right.
him out. And they're
She's there.
singing
She's-
songs. So they kind of have a bizarre little friendship at the
A
same
junkie
time.
bond.
It's great. I mean, that scene is really, really neat. With
I
the old
think
lady.
Curtis Mayfield could have done a song about that.
Junkie grandma, that's what I say.
So they are. So what happens? Why are they done with him? At some point, they're just done with him.
Charnay finally figures out that he is telling the truth, that he believes him, that they're not going to get anything out of him. He doesn't really know anything.
So Charnier
just-
gets him doped up so that he can find out how close his Doyle or the cops are to him.
Exactly.
And when he finds out Popeye knows nothing. Right. Okay. So then they're done with him.
They just they shoot him up one more time to make him pliable, and
Right.
and they just take him and
He just
pliant, not pliable, pliant. So they
sounds
right?
good to me.
But he is pliable.
But he is pliable. In that state, you can bend him any which way.
All right, I caught myself there. Anyway, so they shoot him up, you know, so they can manage him. They throw him in the car, and they literally throw him out of the car in front of the police station.
They just pull
and
up
they take,
and
they
right
take
out the
off.
door. Yeah.
And it's a really great scene after this because it's large. First of all, it's all in French.
Yeah.
There's no English whatsoever.
No subtitles.
And it's
for
this
the most part.
but you don't need it. You
Yeah.
understand what's going on, and all this intensity about there are doctors, and they're in this dungeon. It looks like, you know.
Yes,
with this,
it is a cell
right,
down
but
in the
you
basement.
don't even
yeah.
quite know what this place is. I guess it's a cell. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. So
I mean, it's
but
an old police building.
yeah, but it looks
Who
like
knows
the
how old
tombs.
this
You know,
thing
like
is. Yeah,
there's
yeah.
some sort of thing you see like in a medieval
Yeah,
castle.
you take him down this dark stairway.
Dirty
and,
place,
Yeah.
and you can hear the dripping water and whatnot.
And these doctors are working furiously on him.
furiously. At one point, actually, Doyle
His heart
is
stopped.
dead.
Yeah.
You know, he basically this guy
So
has
they have
he's
him
got
hooked up to a whatever EKG, I
Right.
guess, an older, early version of
right,
it.
right. But if you see his heart,
I wasn't
falter.
sure what they were doing. They were shooting him up. They're trying to do something to
well, they were pumping his stomach too.
pumping his stomach. Right,
and,
that's
and,
a
and
great
they're doing
scene.
all this work, and it's all in French, and it's so compelling. And it's shot with this handheld technique
it's just
that
almost
you
like this
really feel like
workmanlike-
they're saving this guy's
Yeah,
life. It's really
yeah.
fantastic. Really
And
great.
yeah, and you get the sense that, I mean, again, this is the center of the heroin trade in Europe, Marseille, and these guys know what they're doing. You know what I mean? There's just like experienced cops in this drug world. And then the following scenes where Doyle has to go cold turkey, just as harrowing is the heroin scene.
He's amazing.
He's like locked in his cell for the most part, and
He's convulsing and kicking and punching. And
I just kept hearing the Lennon song, you know, Cold Turkey in my head. It was just
Exactly.
like...
and he asks him, he says to Henri, he says, "You're not going to make me go cold turkey."
Yeah.
So I've seen people, you know, put their head through a steel wall. I can't go through that. So you're going to have to. Henri saves his life with the team of doctors and whatnot, but Henri is responsible for this whole thing. They develop this really bizarre friendship.
Yeah.
And Henri starts to look at Doyle differently, and he feels for him. And there's a really great part of the scene where they're getting drunk.
So, Henri, they're getting friendly.
Yeah, so you know, they start to develop this friendship.
Yeah.
A strange friendship, an odd friendship. They're adversaries, you know.
But they're cops. You know, I mean, they're recognized.
And I think there's a
like,
bond. I think there's a bond to this, and they develop this friendship after he saves his life in essence. I like that. I think it's the next scene. It was like a montage or something.
Well, they're driving him around the city now. So suddenly they're driving him around the city because they're trying to find this hotel
He's finally dried up by this point.
Yeah.
You know, he's taking a shower. He's cleaned up. He tries to eat some breakfast.
Yeah. He's suddenly trying to get in shape.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's doing this sort of Rocky.
What the hell? He's running.
He's trying to do some sit-ups. He's trying to do some push-ups, and then he's doing a little running, and the guy's saying, "We want to get in the car," and he just waves him off. You know, and I just heard in the background, you know, so it's kind of like this half-ass Rocky montage of getting into shape.
Right.
We cut to him, and he's walking with the Popeye hat, and he's back.
Yeah.
He's ready to go. He's back searching for Shawnee.
And he finally comes across the hotel.
We keep calling it the Hotel Tangier, that he calls Tanger.
Tanger.
It used to be called the Hotel Tanger.
And of course, with the warning,
he
bring some water.
He says, Henry, bring some water. A lot of it.
Now, earlier I said, you know, this whole movie is built around some great set pieces. So, you know, we have this whole getting hooked in the Tangier Hotel. Yeah. You have the whole thing in the cell, the dank cell. And now there's another one. This whole, like, you suddenly see him walking through the hotel with cans of gasoline.
Yeah, he's pouring all over the place. To me, he's like he's like the Dirty Dozen, the Guns of Navarone, and the Terminator in a pork pie hat. You know, he just torches this frickin' place.
And he doesn't give a shit who's in the hotel.
No.
There's people in all these rooms.
Sitting there having, you know, like a couple drinks or dinner or something.
Or in the rooms, you see him coming out with barely any clothes on.
Strikes a match.
He didn't even care about himself. He's in the middle of these halls lighting matches.
That's a good point.
Right next to him.
He is burning this frickin' thing down.
He finally finds his room. And he's in there. The hotel's burning. Yeah. He's in his hotel room, his old room where they had him hooked, with a can of gasoline splashing it around. I'm like, dude, that just has to catch fire in your smoke. You know, like, he doesn't give a fuck.
No.
And it's such a great scene set-wise.
Right.
It looks real, I mean, to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And really, he just burns this whole multi-story city hotel to the ground. It's just like, what a great scene.
So then there's the scene at the pier where the ship that brought the heroin in.
The dry dock.
Right. Right, but they're at the pier. There's a dry dock at the pier.
Yes.
That's what he's trying to say.
There's a dry dock at the pier. Right. They're at the pier.
Let's
I cut Bob off. We're going to keep this in. Go ahead.
Let's start
at the pier.
There's the scene at the pier in the dry dock. There's a scene at the pier in the dry dock where the ship that brought the heroin in the first place.
So they've been smuggling the heroin. It's been welded to the bottom of the hulks of these ships. And that's how they get them into the port.
It's a hell of a smart operation.
Yeah. And, I mean, think about it. You got millions of dollars of heroin stuck to the bottom of the ship. You have to get it into a dry dock.
Right.
And then you got to get it off.
Right.
And that's where he finds them.
Along with Henry and company.
Yeah.
And Doyle. And once again, Doyle is not supposed to have a gun. Which is very funny to see all these scenes with him having no gun and trying to, you know, bob and weave and try not to get killed.
But what's cool about the scene is these guys spot the cops trying to sneak up on them.
Right.
And they suddenly pull out these machine guns.
For me, I felt like this was like one of those scenes you would see at a climax in a Bond movie. All you needed was a John Barry music, and you got the machine gun fire, and then they open the floodgates, and all this water starts rushing in and rushing in.
But like the whole idea is like these cops are totally outgunned too. I mean, because these guys are some serious criminals.
They're shooting pistols.
There's
automatic or not.
These guys have like military-like machine guns. And again, definitely real location. You can't build that set.
Right.
And like you said, suddenly Doyle and Henri are down at the bottom in this shootout, and
water's rushing in like mad.
The criminals are escaping, and they let the water come in.
But most of the criminals did leave, but there were still guys with machine guns still shooting
holding them there. Right, so they're trapped
in the water.
Right, they're trapped in the dry dock as water is suddenly being released into the dry dock.
I mean, hundreds of thousands of gallons just rushing in. It's going to float the ship up.
So Doyle and Henri are trapped at the bottom here. And what a great scene, harrowing scene. Talk about like these wooden, the logs holding the ship in place are suddenly falling all over the place, raining down. These guys are trying to escape the water.
They're like putting their hands over their heads so they don't get knocked with a log the size of a tree, right?
And then going under the ship.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, is that a set or not? Because how do you get these major actors to be in this environment? You know what it made me
Yeah.
think of? It made me think of all the stories of Titanic where, we built this, 50 million gallon tank in Mexico to film the Titanic. I'm like, well, they didn't do that here in Marseille. How the frick did they do this?
They were
scene?
tough in the 70s.
I'm
None of
telling
this
you.
crap.
Yeah, Gene Hackman, go jump down in that dry dock where
Oh, he
gallons
was down
of
there
water.
with all that water and everything else swimming around.
And that's
Those
what
were
made
freezing his
that's
ass
what made
off.
it a great scene. It just felt so real.
And I love when the water really starts rushing in. Gene Hackman turns to Henri and says, "I hope you can swim, asshole."
Once a New York cop, always a New York cop. And then there's this great, excellent cinema verite montage as Doyle is following Jacques, who's Charnier's second in command, which leads him. He follows him right to the operation of Charnier in this big factory where they're unpacking all this heroin.
Well, I do think it's funny, and it does tie into the very beginning.
Yeah.
With the whole April Fool thing, pinning the fish and whatnot, because the cans of soup that they're putting in is bouillabaisse, which is fish stew.
So they're in, right, they're cutting open these cans.
maybe the whole thing was, it is in the fish, but in the cans of fish.
There you go.
Right.
It all comes around.
That's right.
So there's a great shootout in the factory because they suddenly see. And again, another great scene. There's a lot of great shots of them going through the factory, little, shots here or there, the gunfight and stairway and chasing Charnier.
Hackman picks up a gun that's from a cop who was killed, and he just starts shooting, which he shouldn't be doing in the first place, but he gets all caught up in the action. And then we see Charnier up above on a balcony, and he's just ready to shoot him, and he's out of bullets. He's out of ammunition.
And then this foot chase ensues, which I think is one of the great scenes in cinema. I love this scene.
It's very tension-filled.
Yeah.
It's very tension-filled because you're going, my God, this guy could actually get away. And what I love about it is Hackman's like the Terminator. He's running after the trolley that Charnier's on, and he is single-minded. If I don't care if this kills me, I'm getting this guy.
And what's great about this movie, just an aside, they do pull things from the original film because there's a whole set in the original French Connection where he's following Charnier through the streets of New York and Charnier keeps eluding him.
Right.
That's a great chase scene.
Yes.
So here, it's like the culmination of this movie is almost like a continuation of that.
Right. It's the two of them. It comes down to the two of them.
Yeah, and Charnier, as you say, is on the streetcar and scenes of Hackman running through traffic.
Full out.
Like, and again, I can imagine they had all this
No
thing.
stunt doubles.
Yeah.
It was in traffic. Yeah.
It's such a great scene, and it just the tension builds as they cut back and forth.
It's very tense because you feel what he's feeling. He's thinking, my God, this guy's going to get away. And finally, Charnier eludes him and gets on a boat.
And Hackman's like, where the hell did he go?
And it's interesting because the sound that's done at this point was dubbed in later on. And it has this feeling, it's kind of like in 2001.
Yeah.
We have Dave, and you just hear the breathing.
Yeah.
And it gives this sort of like feeling of it's inside your head, and you're feeling this breathing, and you're feeling this tension. I could feel it in my chest, and you're watching them go. And they also have this really interesting. There's a soft focus to it, but the POV shots. Of Doyle.
Well,
now is that video? Is that 16? It
felt like a smaller camera. Could have been 16.
Probably 16 because it looks soft.
It's
but
different.
it's still
shot, yeah. And but like I said, Charnier does disappear, and Hackman's looking all over for him. And then there's a wonderful shot where he looks up, and there's a sailboat going by, and you just see
just the back going down.
Snippet of
Just
this
the back
of this guy going
under,
into the cabin.
Yes.
And Doyle's like, was that him? Like, you don't even know it's him because it happens so fast. It's such a great, who thought of that shot? It's a beautiful shot. And Doyle's like, was that him?
It's beautiful.
And he starts chasing this sailboat, which is going out of the harbor.
And going out to sea. And the thing is, he has to find some way to get to a certain point of the pier that he could get close enough to maybe get a shot.
Running along the pier.
And then he runs out of pier.
He has to go around. He runs out of pier.
around the block and goes around and around.
Around
up and down.
a fence. There's the fence coming over the water.
And he finally falls.
And the breathing. All you're hearing is the breathing.
And that POV shot keeps... not continuously, but it comes in at the right times. It was very well edited. I felt the film was very well edited.
It's a great montage that builds tension, as you said, and you hear the breathing, you hear the soundtrack, and then finally he gets to the end.
He runs out of pier.
Yeah.
There is nowhere else to go, and I felt my heart in my throat because I'm thinking, my God, this guy's going to get away. And you're thinking, I mean, Doyle looks like he's thinking, this guy's going to get away. What am I going to do? What can I do? And then another boat starts coming toward him, and it's got a loudspeaker, and it says, Capitan, Capitan. Yeah. Basically, he's telling, move over, make way for me. Yeah. And he's going down towards, and rather in the opposite direction that Chaugnier's boat is going. And because of that, Chaugnier's boat has to move over a little bit closer to the pier, just enough to...
Well, Doyle looks up, and he suddenly sees Chaugnier on the ship. Because Chaugnier has probably at this point thought he's gotten
That's it.
out. He's gone because
he's annoyed that he has to move over.
No way that this guy is. I've ditched him. Yeah. I'm on my boat. I'm heading out to sea. There's no way he's going to capture me. And Doyle looks up. He sees Chaugnier, and he just leans against the wall,
yells,
puts up his revolver, and what does he say?
Chaugnier!
Yeah, it's just great, Chaugnier.
And he looks. He shoots him straight in the chest, and he's shocked. And then he shoots him again, and you see him fall. Black.
Cut.
Perfect. That's the movie. That's the story. It's beautiful.
One of the best edits in film.
It's beautiful.
Like the edit in Lawrence of Arabia when you go from the match to the sun.
Yeah.
Just the way, who thought of this, right? Because you would have thought, okay, we
cut back to Hackman, so he feels, vindicated. Feels no, it's perfect.
Or you see this guy falling, cut to black.
If you're looking through a video guide or something, you see French Connection 2. Well, let me tell you. Very much worth seeing.
And here's the thing I have to say about this movie, and why I think it works so great is it's very effective. There's nothing fancy in the movie. No. It's just really well shot action.
Yeah.
There's no special effects. It's not like a big explosion at the end. It's very subtle, but it works so effectively. Like this, again, just like the way things are put together.
But I think Frankenheimer's background was in live television back in the Playhouse 90 Days and whatnot. Right. Yep. And I think he really understood what to do inside that, that scene, that frame, and how to not do too much flailing around and whiz bang. Let's just tell the story. Let's just do this nice little story and let's present it. Hackman, magnificent performance.
I think, as you said, a lot of people, and I couldn't personally decide. I like them both. I think they're very different movies. A lot of people thought this was better than the first movie.
No, they're totally different movies.
They're different.
It's apples and oranges.
But Hackman is possibly better in this movie.
I think he's actually...
He's got to do so much more acting.
He has so much more that he has to do in this.
Yeah.
And he has to really stretch his whole range of emotions and whatnot.
And literally, the movie is him. He's the movie. There's nothing else going on in this movie. It's him. It's just following this guy, Popeye Doyle.
It's a good thing he was contracted to do the movie anyway.
So there you have it, French Connection 2.
See it. Fantastic.
Well, that's all the time we have this week.
I'd like to thank our friend Glenn Ornowitz for his music.
And of course, our listeners for tuning in.
So join us next week for another episode of
Film Detour.